Hello guys, welcome to all of you on my YouTube channel Terraces Vision. In the previous class, we discussed some other authors of Victorian age like Charles Dickens. In that class, we discussed the characteristics of Dickens's novels and some other elements of Victorian age. That how in his novels, Charles Dickens represented the Victorian phenomena of slum, child labor, industrial revolution and people were going in prison due to their debts. All these things were depicted by Charles Dickens in a very profound way in his manners. That's why we call him the most representative novelist of the Victorian age. His famous autobiographical novel, David Copperfield, tells the story of Dickens's own life, where he suffered, where he worked as a child. And his father, had to go in prison because of his mounting debts. In today's class, we are going to discuss some other Victorian authors whose works are famous in that era. So let's come in the class and see who are these authors that made their reputation in this age. So the next author after Dickens is W.M. Thackeray. Yes, the full name of is W.M. Thackeray is William Makepeace Thackeray. William Makepeace Thackeray. He was born in 1811 and he died in 1863. And his famous novel is Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair, or the subtitle of this novel is A Novel Without Hero, and it was published in the year 1847 to 48. Yes, this was the year in which the famous book Communist Manifesto was published by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Now the another author is George Eliot. Yes, George Eliot is the name of a woman. Yes, and who is that woman? She is Mary Ann Evans. Mary Ann Evans. So Mary Ann Evans took a pseudonym. And what is that pseudonym? This is George Eliot. She had to keep, the name of a male, George, in her name so that she could be able to publish her novels. Yes, this was the Victorian age in which we saw that the women, the female segment of that age raised its voice. And this voice, lacked the opportunity to express itself in the previous ages. And here also we see that the authors like George Eliot had hesitations to send her novels for publication because they were afraid that maybe their works may be rejected because of being a female. Because she is a female, so that their novels would not be published. And that's why, she took a, name of a male, and that is called George. Many authors, even J.K. Rowling, the famous novelist of the Harry Potter series, also, took a name of female for the publication of her novels. So this was happened with George Eliot, or we can say Mary Ann Evans too. Her real name was Mary Ann Evans. Her novels are called the novels of characters. This may be asked in any examination. That's whose novels are called the novel of characters. So she is George Eliot, whose novels are called the novels of characters. They are sometimes psychological novels. They are sometimes called psychological novels too. And why psychological novels? Because in her novels, she depicted the psychological state of her protagonist. She has written many famous novels, and one among them is, The Mill on the Floss. Her famous novels are, first is Adam Bede, that was published in 1859, and this was the year when Charles Darwin published his famous book on the origin of species. And her another novel is The Mill on the Floss, and this is her very famous novel, The Mill on the Floss. And it tells the story of, a brother and sister There are two siblings and one among them is what is her name? Maggie Tulliver. Maggie Tulliver. Maggie Tulliver is the protagonist of this novel. Maggie Tulliver, मैगी और उसका भाई दोनों एक घर में हैं। ये कहानी है उन दो बच्चों की, ठीक है, और उनके फादर की, जिनकी एक मिल है। कहां पर? फ्लॉस इज द नेम ऑफ अ रिवर। ये क्या है? एक नदी की जगह है, एक नदी है, वहां पर इनकी एक मिल है। और ये दोनों बच्चे जैसे ही बचपन में रहते हैं साथ में, तो इनके बीच में कोई भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, भेदभाव यहां पर नहीं हो रहा है। वो बहुत ही प्यारे बच्चे हैं, और बहुत प्यारे बच्चे इसलिए भी हैं क्योंकि वो हमेशा भाई बहन साथ रहते हैं, और इनके पेरेंट्स जो हैं वो भी किसी भी तरीके का भेदभाव इन लोगों को पालने में नहीं करते हैं। लेकिन जैसे ही थोड़ा सा बच्चे बड़े होते हैं तो जब रिलेटिव्स आना वहां पर शुरू होते हैं, रिलेटिव्स उनके आते हैं, तो हमेशा उनके पेरेंट्स को यह सलाह देते हैं दैट यू हैव टू कीप योर गर्ल इन अ लिमिट, शी मस्ट नॉट बी अलाउड टू प्ले आउटसाइड विद द बॉयज। कि आपको अपनी बेटी को एक सीमा में रखना है, उसे बाहर खेलने नहीं दिया जाना है। और मैगी को इतना ज्यादा सप्रेस किया जाने लगता है कि वो छोटी सी बच्ची इतना ज्यादा परेशान हो जाती है, साइकोलॉजिकल ट्रॉमा में आ जाती है कि वो अपने बाल काट लेती है पूरी। अब आप सोचिए कि ये जो एक्शन होता है बाल काटने का, इट जनरली नेवर हैपेंस विद गर्ल्स बिकॉज देयर ब्यूटी रेस्ट्स ऑन दिस फेज, rests on their hair. But Maggie Tulliver cut her hair as a protest. In a protest. अब थोड़े से बड़े होते हैं तो मैगी के भाई को बाहर भेज दिया जाता है पढ़ने के लिए, और ये बच्ची अब घर में और अकेली हो जाती है, और बार बार again and again she is facing the exhortations of her family, and not even of her family, but more of her relatives. The famous line of this novel is nature repairs its own ravages. Remember the line? Nature repairs its own ravages. यानी प्रकृति क्या है? वो अपनी भरपाई करना जानती है, वो अच्छे से जानती है कि उसे कहां पर अपना बदला निकालना है। एंड दिस हैपेंड विद दीज टू किड्स। उसका भाई छुट्टियों में आया हुआ है उसके साथ, और वो खेल रहा है अपनी बहन के साथ में। कहां पर? उसी मिल पे, जो उसके पेरेंट्स की मिल है, फ्लॉस नदी के किनारे, और वहां पर वो लोग खेल रहे होते हैं, और फ्लॉस नदी में बाढ़ आती है और वो दोनों बच्चों को बहा ले जाती है। दोनों बच्चों की डेथ हो जाती है। एक फर्स्ट प्राइमा फेसी पे हम देखेंगे तो यहां पर यह निकल करके आता है कि दोनों बच्चे डूब करके मर जाते हैं। लेकिन इसके पीछे एक बड़ा मैसेज है। बड़ा मैसेज ये है कि दोनों बच्चे, क्योंकि नेचर ने दिया था ह्यूमन बीइंग्स को, बच्चों को पाल पोस करके बड़ा करने के लिए, नेचर डिड नॉट वांट दैट देयर मस्ट बी अ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन बिटवीन टू किड्स, बट इट वर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स, human beings put the discrimination on the basis of gender and sex. और नेचर जब देखती है कि उसके बच्चों को संभाला नहीं जा पा रहा है, तो अपने बच्चों को फिर से लेकर के वापस चली जाती है। So these were the things that were projected by George Eliot in her novels. That's why we say that her novels were psychological novels too. And this was the situation, this was true in the case of Maggie Tulliver. Maggie Tulliver was the girl who suffered the mental trauma, who suffered the isolation, who suffered, all kinds of pangs and sorrows that were caused by her relatives and finally her family. But nature ultimately took them all, and in this way she wiped away all the sufferings of Maggie Tulliver. So her other novels, Silas Mariner, right? Her other novel is Silas Mariner, that was published in 1861, and finally her novel Middlemarch. That's a very famous novel, Middlemarch, and it was published in 1871 to 72. 1871 to 72, and the subtitle of the novel is A Study of Provincial Life. Now we have another author of this age, John Ruskin. And John Ruskin is famous for his criticism and basically for the criticism of William Shakespeare. We always listen, you always hear that Ruskin has remarked that Shakespeare has only heroines, not heroes. Shakespeare has only heroines, not heroes. These were the remarks of John Ruskin, and this came true. This became true in the case of John Ruskin, that John Ruskin, gave all such kind of criticisms. And his lectures were recorded in the form of book. So see here, well known for his Unto This Last, that was published in 1862, and the book Modern Painters, that was published in 1843, The Seven Lamps of Architecture, that was published in 1849. His writings greatly influenced the personality like Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, that's a very famous thing, and can also be asked in an examination that Mahatma Gandhi was inspired by whose ideology of West? So it was John Ruskin. John Ruskin influenced Mahatma Gandhi, the father of nation in India. Next, we have Benjamin Disraeli. Benjamin Disraeli was a politician. And he was the Prime Minister of Britain during the 1874 to 80. Means he holds the post till the 6 years from 1874 to 80. In this period, his famous novel is Sibyl. Sibyl is a character of Greek literature, and the wasteland, the epigraph of wasteland also has been taken from this character. Sibyl is a girl who has been cursed that she will be immortal, but Sibyl wants to die because immortality doesn't suit her. Immortality is not good. And this is the saying of our favorite hero, Jack Sparrow. Yes, the hero of Pirates of the Caribbean series. Jack Sparrow says that जिंदगी का मजा तब है जब मौत बिन बुलाए आए. आपके वजूद का हर लम्हा बाद में जाकर के एक रहस्य बन जाए, यही तो मजा है जिंदगी का. अमर होने में क्या मजा, राइट? एंड ऑल्सो अब्राहम लिंकन हैड सेड है कि भूत अकेले ही अमर नहीं होते हैं, कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं जो अपने डीड्स और एक्शंस के जरिए अमर होते हैं. तो अब्राहम लिंकन भी आज ऐसे ही अमर हैं बिकॉज ही इमेंसिपेटेड स्लेवरी. he abolished slavery from his act of emancipation proclamation that was signed in 1863. So now come on next author. Now we have Elizabeth Gaskell. And her famous novels are Mary Burton. First novel Mary Burton was published in 1848, and next we have Sylvia's Lover that was published in 1863, and now next Wives and Daughters that was published in 1865, etc. She wrote the first biography about Bronte. Bronte, who's Bronte sisters, Charlotte, and Emily Anne. The life of Charlotte Bronte, and it was published in the year 1857, and this is the year when first war of independence was fought in India against Britishers. And finally, we have Anthony Trollope, another author. He was born in 1815 and died in 1882, like Hardy's Wessex. And what it is? It is his regional area, region of, we can say, region. And R.K. Narayan's Malgudi. Trollope also has created an imaginary country, named Worcestershire. Trollope's region is Worcestershire. His reputation is based, based on his Palliser novels. Which are these novels? It is a collection of 6 novels. How many? 6 novels, also known as parliamentary novels. These novels are called parliamentary novels. So these are the novels. Can You Forgive Her? First novel. Phineas Finn, second novel. The Eustace Diamonds, third novel. Phineas Redux, fourth novel. The Prime Minister, fifth novel. And finally, The Dyke's Children. So these 6 novels are called Palliser novels. His other novels are Bicester Towers. Bicester Towers, published in 1857, The Way We Live Now, 1875, and Castle Richmond, that was published in 1860. 1860. So here, Bronte sisters. So there are 3 sisters. Bronte sisters. We have already talked about her, about Bronte sisters, that who they are and which are their works. So they are recognized as the Stormy Sisterhood. Remember the Stormy Sisterhood. And they were 3 sisters. Which are they? The first among them is Charlotte Bronte. Charlotte Bronte, and her famous novel is Jane Eyre. Published in 1847. We have second author, Emily Bronte, 1818 to 1848, only 30 years, right? Her famous and only novel is Wuthering Heights, published in 1847, and it is a kind of Gothic novel. The novels, which targeted to, evoke a kind of chilling terror in human minds. Gothic novel. And finally, among them is Anne Bronte, Charlotte Emily Anne, 1820 to 1849. Her autobiographical novel is Agnes Grey. Her second novel is, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and it was published in 1848. We have some other authors also, and among them are Charles Kingsley, born in 1819 and died in 1875. Well known for dealing with social reform and concern for poor. Remember, reform and concern for poor, and exploited in his fiction. That he always wrote about the marginalized people in his novels. His famous novel is Elton Locke, published in 1850, and Water Babies, published in 1863. The next and the most, we can say, one among the most famous novelists of that era, Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll is also a pseudonym, and the real name of Lewis Carroll was Charles Ludwig Dodson. Remember, and he was a mathematician. Charles Ludwig Dodson. Yeah, Lewis Carroll was the pen name of the mathematician Charles Ludwig Dodson. He is well known for his, novel Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland, published in 1865, and another Through the Looking Glass, published in 1872. And finally, we have George Meredith, and he was born in 1828 and died in 1909. His famous novels are The Egoist, 1879, and Diana of the Crossways, that was published in 1885. These authors, we can, count these authors in such a way that they were not so reputed, as we have Thomas Hardy, Charles Dickens, and the famous poets of Victorian age. They are the minor authors of this age. So we have one most famous author, and he is remaining now, and he is Thomas Hardy. Yes, the person who has been called the most pessimistic novelist of that era, Thomas Hardy, but he himself calls him a melodist. Who are the melodists? That people who can change the world if they want. So we would deal Thomas Hardy in a separate class. This was all about for today. I will make a single video on Thomas Hardy, because Thomas Hardy is famous, not only famous, but he also has been prescribed in several exams like PGT and other one-day exams also. So this was all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.